Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello. This is Kathy Mazak. Welcome to Academic Writing Amplified. Today I'm digging into one of the most upsetting parts of academia. I think we tend to think that relational, distress, and sometimes we call them, toxic relationships and everything inside of academia. It's like worse in academia. I think that might be true. It might also just be that humans are humans, and there's always going to be relational drama. There's always going to be toxic people. It does feel when you're inside of academia like there's kind of like more toxic people or there's more toxicity. And I think that there are kind of structures and also sociocultural patterns inside of academia, if you think about it as a culture, that can even sometimes reward that kind of toxicity. So today I am talking about this. It has come up in my coaching quite a few times in the past few weeks. So I wanted to make sure that I talked about it on the podcast. Now, before we really get started, I want to remind you that the waitlist for our Navigate program is open. Now, why would you want to get on the waitlist instead of just waiting until we open enrollment and enrolling then? Well, you want to get on the wait list now so that, first of all, you are the first one to know about when we open enrollment again. So whenever in time you're listening, you want to be the first to get notice, because eventually we might not even announce publicly that Navigate is open. If we fill our cohorts from the wait list, then we won't even need to really announce it publicly. So if you're interested in Navigate, go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate. That's .org, Scholars Voice altogether, .org/navigate. Find the pink button and get on the wait list. But the other reason, I'm going to do a teaser. The other reason, if you're listening in real time, is that we are going to do an early enrollment period now or soon in late November, early December, for our cohort that begins January 29th. And all I'm going to say about the bonus that we are offering is that if when a new season of Bridgerton comes on Netflix and you binge it, then this bonus is for you. That's all I'm going to say. It's a teaser. Anyway, get on the wait list so you can find out what the bonus is first. And make sure that you are eligible if a early 2024 Navigate is the right choice for you. All right, let's get into talking about toxic relationships. I don't even like to talk about it. And relational drama. I'll say a few things first about where I've been noticing toxic relationships and relational drama. And it's when you are operating as if you are in an earlier season of your career than you actually are. So remember, I did that podcast a few weeks ago about the stages of the academic career. If you are in the stage of your academic career which is often like we would sometimes call this early career, if you are there and you are not trying to get out from under the wing of your advisor, then that can cause relational drama between you and your advisor, or you and the circle of people that you are in, when you are seen by others as kind of part of your advisor's package, right? Like a part of your advisor's work. So when I talked about those stages of the academic career, a really important stage is like going out on your own and kind of becoming, or actually becoming, an independent scholar. And if you are trying to do that, or you are in that stage, but you are still acting like you are in the previous stage of apprenticeship, then that can cause relational drama. Because imagine you are trying to like go out on your own, have different ideas from your advisor or from your advisor's research group, make your own way. You need to create new collaborations and new relationships, but you're acting like you are still an apprentice. And that puts you in a position, of weakness, right? Of like conceding to others. And that is not where you need to be. You need to be in a position of leadership. You need to be making your own way. You need to be calling the shots. You need to be, driving projects forward. And if you're driving projects forward because you should be doing that at this stage of your career, but you're still doing it with like the same people you're apprenticing under, that can be a really big relational problem. So figuring out how you're going to break with old mentoring relationships, and I don't want to say break with, because sometimes like my mentors were amazing. And if I was still an academic, right, full-time, I would maybe, I didn't collaborate with them though. Anyway, but like, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing relationally to collaborate with them, because they were wonderful to collaborate with. But I just keep hearing stories of people who are stuck in the same kind of power dynamic of the apprenticeship phase when they need to be in a higher, more developed, advanced leadership stage of academia. And of course, that's going to cause relational drama. And of course, if your advisor and you had a toxic relationship as advisor and advisee, that toxic relationship will continue. You getting the PhD, you getting the tenure-track job, you getting tenure will not change that relationship, because toxic people are going to be toxic to you no matter what. And that person is always going to see you as their student. And it's just not, it makes it difficult for you to act from a place of leadership. And it can really, really pull you down. And the emotional parts of those relationships and those collaborations, the emotional parts of collaborating and working just in a department with people, definitely can suck your time and energy in a way that absolutely affects your writing practice and your ability to publish. Related to that, if you continue to think, I need to tolerate bad behavior or toxic behavior or dramatic behavior from my former mentor or former advisor so that he or she will write me a letter, that is also something I want you to question. Is the drain on your energy worth the letter? Especially if you are out of that apprenticeship stage and you are really out on your own and even maybe mid-career. It probably doesn't. You probably don't need it. You could probably get a better letter from somebody else. Is it really worth, hanging on and tolerating the relationship? So that's just some kind of thoughts that I've had recently, and things that I've been noticing, right? I've been noticing when people are like more advanced in their career path, but they're acting like they're at an earlier stage, or they're still like really embroiled in relationships from their earlier stage of their academic career, that can cause relational drama. So just something to notice, something to think about. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is how can you work through that relational drama? How do you manage toxicity in relationships around you. And my advice here is like, just please know it's all easier said than done. This is difficult work. It's emotional work. It's emotional because you have to deal with your own emotions and you are dealing with somebody else's emotions. So I'll just say, like, I'm going to tell you some things, but it is not, I acknowledge fully that it is way easier said than done. So, of course, the way to manage relational drama in toxic relationships is boundaries. Now, boundaries is a word that gets thrown around a lot. The way I want to talk about it here is in relation to how you are training people to behave towards you. So our interactions with others train people what to expect from us and kind of train them like how to interact with us, how to communicate with us, what are the best ways to manage the relationship. So just as an example, think about the people that you communicate with the most through your phone. There are some people who that if you want to get them, you call them, right? And there's other people that if you want to get them, you text them. And there's other people that if you want to get them, you WhatsApp them, or you Voxer them, or you direct message them on Instagram. And there's think about it right now. You are not only using one method of communication with everybody, unless you're the one with the best boundaries because you've trained everyone to only communicate with you through one channel. But, probably not. So let's just imagine, just think about maybe it's your parents that you always pick up the phone and call versus your spouse. Like me and my spouse and my kids are on WhatsApp and in WhatsApp groups. How is it that you want to communicate? How is it that you communicate with people? It's different. And it's because you've established some kind of norms in the relationship, right? And equally so, the kind of register you use to communicate with people through different platforms and in different ways and for different parts of your life is going to be different. Partly because of social norms and partially because you kind of trained each other. Like, this is the way we do it, That's kind of I hope, an accessible example of how we train others or we shape the way that other people interact with us through our actions, through what we tolerate, through what we reinforce positively or negatively, through what we reinforce with others. So this is to say that if you have a person who is toxic or dramatic, there's relational drama, one of the ways that you can start to put boundaries is by channels of communication and how you react to their communications. Here's an example. My mom has a friend, and my mom and her friends are in their 70s, and they are often victims of fraudulent text messages, right? And these scams and things like that. But they're also, for people who are 70, pretty dang tech savvy and can, they all have smartphones and everything. So my mom has this friend who every time there's a scam, writes to my mother and the other people in the group chat and says if you get a message from me that's like this, it's not me, it's a scam. This is happening. I think it's a scam. I'm not sure. Can tell me if this is a scam. And this is happening all the time. And my mom's here visiting us. She's spending a week with her grandkids, probably all told in a year. We spend 3 weeks together, at with different visits. It's not a lot of time. So she doesn't need to be responding to this woman's text messages. And I'm like, Mom, just don't respond. Not every text message deserves a response. And if you respond to every weird thing that this other woman is messaging, you are teaching her something about the response time she can expect from you. And, the fact that she will rile you up, right? That she's going to get a rise out of you, which is not what you want to teach her. You want to teach her to leave you alone. So that's just one example of holding a boundary. I do not respond to messages like this. If you get a toxically worded message from an advisor or colleague, or collaborator, you can do the same thing. You can not respond. That's one way. You just like, it is as if I have not read this. Is I do not respond to this type of communication. You could reply to the person and say that, right? Like, I do not respond to this type of communication. Regardless, putting up that boundary and saying like, this is not okay is going to help you to have less drama and less toxicity, because dramatic people and toxic people are looking to involve people in their drama and like kind of pull you in. And your job is to put up the boundaries and not let that happen. So now you know why I said at the beginning, that's all easier said than done. I think sometimes for like low levels of relational drama and low levels of toxicity, that is probably a pretty accessible strategy, right? Like just either cutting off communication or not, or telling them straight up, like, I can't respond to emails that are written in this tone, whatever. For deeper, more complex drama and toxicity, I completely acknowledge that it is harder than that and might take a long time and might take cutting off the relationship. And that is something that I think is really important to think all the way through, because many times, especially when it's a former advisor, we think, I can't cut this person out of my life. What will other people think if I don't have a relationship with my advisor? Or what will other people think if I turn in this job application packet and my advisor doesn't have a letter in there? We have these papers that we are co-authoring, and, I need to keep working with my former advisor in order to get the papers out. And I just want to ask you to please question all of that. If you are in a situation where you are saying those things, I can't break off this toxic relationship, I can't put up a boundary because X, Y, and Z, please think about that in relation to the scarcity, that we are so ingrained with in academic culture. There are many, many ways to be successful in academia. There's many, many paths. You don't have to put up with toxic horribleness or large amounts of drama. You don't have to do that. There are other ways. I know it feels like you have to do it. I want you to really think whether you actually have to do it or not. So I'll close today's podcast by really wrapping it right back around to writing, which I always like to do. This is the Academic Writing Amplified podcast after all. And so I want to specifically say that it is hard to publish papers with people who are causing drama or who are acting toxically towards you. It is hard to collaborate with people like that and get writing done, because writing is emotional enough, and your own battles with your own self over honoring your writing time and feeling like you have something to say, and your confidence around your argument and all of those kinds of things, you're already up in your head about writing. Worrying about a toxic co-author or an overly dramatic co-author, it's just going to make your writing slower and slower, because so much of writing and publishing, even though other people would not say this, but I'm saying it to you. It's so much about how you feel. It's so much about your relationship with your writing and having positive feelings towards your writing. And if you have really negative feelings towards co-authors or collaborators, it's harder still. And what you're really looking to do, especially if you're someone who is listening to this podcast because you have a backlog of papers that need to get out, what you need is momentum. And you get momentum by submitting papers. So how much is it like stopping your momentum to have these co-writers and collaborators who are emotionally weighty on top of whatever emotions you're having about yourself and your writing. It's just a recipe for a lack of momentum, really. So that's why it's important to have these conversations. That's why it's important to talk about toxicity, to talk about setting boundaries, to talk about teaching people how to communicate with you, because your writing suffers when you are doing too much of this relationship work, or you are, I remember I had a terrible, horrible colleague who, like, I knew, like, if I was in the same room as he was, my heart rate would go up in a bad way. I think it's that rising blood. I would feel like this from the pit of my stomach up the back of my neck, like heat, because he could say any horrible thing to me at any moment. And so I didn't even want to be in the same room that he was in. And if I was writing with that guy, no way. There would just be no way. So when you can decrease drama, when you can shun toxicity in your professional relationships, you are making energetic space for writing that will really help you to gain the momentum that you need to clear your publication pipeline. And once you do that, like, you'll have momentum to keep going. Like, once you learn how to do it, you will just continue to do it. And it will be amazing. You don't need those toxic people. You don't need those collaborators or co-authors. You might think you do right now, but really think about it. How are those toxic relationships holding you back from writing and publishing more? If you removed that thing from your pipeline, if you remove that article of that collaboration, what is it making way for that would be more smooth, more beautiful, a more enjoyable writing experience, so that you can get the momentum to clear your pipeline? I imagine that I spoke to somebody today. So if it's you, I'm glad. And if it's not, I am happy that you listened to this far. Do remember that there's a special bonus for people who enroll early and navigate. So you're going to want to get on the wait list so that you can be one of the first to get the bonus. You can get on the wait list at scholarsvoice.org/navigate. Find the pink button at the top of the page that says get on the wait list. Click it and fill in your info, and you will be on the Navigate waitlist. This is the kind of stuff we talk about in Navigate coaching. Like, this is why there's coaching in the program. It's group coaching. We get together and you will hear other stories and you will get coached around these issues if these are the things that are holding you back from writing and publishing more. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you on the next podcast. Bye.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.